Good afternoon and welcome to this session on accreditation. We have three presentations, or actually two presentations, and one panel discussion. And the first presentation is by Peter Goodyear. So please go ahead.
Okay, thanks. First, a couple of comments. This is a postmodern presentation in that there is a PowerPoint. So you can't suffer death by PowerPoint, but you can still be bored to sleep. So no guarantees. The second is that this is unashamedly what I would call a polemic. In other words, I'm advancing a controversial point of view with no attempt to be even-handed or fair. I'm arguing one side of a case. All right? Of course, I could argue the other side of the case if I so chose. I'm an academic. But I've chosen to argue this side of the case because it's marginally one I believe in. So, which makes it just slightly easier. My case is that accreditation is damaging, wastes our resources, and should be banned. So that, in essence, is what I want to say. Accreditation is a thoroughly bad thing. Why do I say that? I do have a little bit more to say than just that. We all know what accreditation is. I'm referring to the validation, if you like, of usually an undergraduate program by some professional body. There are bodies in the US, there are bodies in the UK, there are in Australia that I know about, and there are probably bodies in other countries that I'm less familiar with. All right, so I'm talking about accreditation by some sort of professional body. Usually, from my experience in the countries I know about, this is a substantial process. Usually a substantial document is written in defense of its programs by the institution being accredited, and usually a visit by an accreditation panel is involved, taking 1 or possibly 2 days. So this is a non-trivial exercise very usually. My estimate when I was involved as a head of school was that it cost me £100,000 to be accredited in UK pounds. To put that into context, that was about 2 faculty years, right? Just to get a tick in this box. So it is expensive. In conversation on the bus with, I forget whom, was it? Well, it wasn't you, was it, Rick? I was talking to somebody on the bus who'd made a similar calculation, and their number was between 1.2 and 1.7 faculty years. So,
I overheard that.
Yeah. So I'm not miles away from what other people believe to be reality. It is very expensive, particularly when you think of what those guys could be doing in those 1.5 to 2 years. Something a great deal more useful than this. Let's just look back at the impact accreditation might have had. Did it stop Airbus 330 flight AF 447 falling out of the sky? No. There may not have been some accredited engineers built the Airbus, probably a few, probably the majority not. It didn't stop the accident. Did the Eiffel Tower stand for so far something like 120 years because Eiffel was accredited? Surely not. He wasn't. Right? Nor probably was anybody on his team. Is my iPhone a miracle because it's built by accredited engineers? Surely not. And probably most of them were not accredited. So it doesn't appear to be doing that. So let's look at what accreditation might be said to be for. It seems to me that you could advance a case that it was supposed to ensure and possibly even enhance, improve the quality and safety of engineered products. Isn't that what we want? So the engineered products like our aircraft or our bridges or whatever, we want them to have some sort of ensured safety. We would rather they work than they didn't work. Not working is quite disastrous in many cases. At a smaller, so that's a global requirement because that's an international requirement. Nationally, we might want a mechanism which our engineers are okay to work in all your countries. That might be a motive for a country to have an accreditation system if it worked like that. Right? So you can answer the case that accreditation is useful for that purpose. But let's look at whether we can deliver on those objectives. And I just think that any accreditation process I've yet seen can possibly deliver any of that. just think what it does. On the whole, accreditation involves study of some approved undergraduate program to a suitable outcome, and that's an element of accreditation. It's usually followed by some requirement for professional experience, appropriate work experience, and so on. So the accreditation of the program is part of it. It occurs, and I think I'm right, everywhere in the world that I know about, but I stand to be corrected, it occurs only once, at the beginning of one's career. Like many professional bodies, the accreditors very often urge their accredited professionals to undertake continual development. And I dare say some of them do. But there's, in the jurisdictions I know, there's no check of that. I have been a registered chartered engineer in UK terms for part of 30 years, and no one has ever asked to see any evidence that I have continued my professional development or taken a single course. I have taken such courses, but no one has checked on me. Right? 30-something years. And I was late being chartered because I couldn't see the point then. And I still can't. So it's pretty unsatisfactory. But worse than that, not only is it useless in that it doesn't guarantee that anything gets better, it's positively damaging to the education system, because most schools who offer themselves for accreditation do it, and then they are looking over their shoulder the whole time, fearful that if they make changes, for which they may have very good educational reasons, as we know, that this will somehow impact negatively on their accreditation. So they're nervous. I have heard the argument advanced by conservative members of my department many, many times over the years. Whenever a change is suggested, oh, the accreditors wouldn't like it. Now that is not actually true, but the perception of it is true, and it stifles innovation because it can be used by anyone inclined to resist innovation, my conservative with us see, as a reason for not making a change. A very convenient reason, because it seems to be a wonderfully sound reason. So it's damaging to education, right, as well as being ineffectual in not doing what we set it up for. So that's the essence of my case. So what should we do instead? Is there any way we can achieve what accreditation sets out to achieve? Well, it seems to me that the responsibility for the quality of the work of employed engineers lies with their employer. And legally, I think that's probably the case throughout the world. The employer carries any penalty for the failure of an engineered device or system. And so surely the responsibility for the quality of the workforce rests with the employer. The employer might look for external help to ensure that the employees are up to date, and they might choose to have a rather more perceptive selection procedure for their staff if they can't hide behind this guy's got a degree from an accredited course, which they can hide behind at the moment. So I think that's where the responsibility lies, and I would be very supportive of tougher continual professional development requirements from employers, but not from professional bodies. A very cynical comment, but one again I think has an element of truth, but it's unpopular to say. Most professional bodies run the activities they do because they need paying members. The major driver behind every professional body activity is that they need paid members, because they're sustaining a wonderful bureaucracy of people in a nice office, in my case in London, in your cases in different cities, which is very nice, very expensive, very comfortable life. But anything threatens that, like, no, not having accredited members, and therefore why would you be a professional member of your body if it wasn't a requirement for accreditation? So they exist to keep their employees happy and keep their income up. So just a couple of other points. The practicalities of accreditation. Very often, and I just in parenthesis, I speak with some knowledge. I've been an accreditor, I've been accredited, I've been the head of a school which has been accredited, and I've been in accreditation panels on behalf of my professional body going and accredit other people. So I've done every element of what I'm talking about. So don't think I'm just speaking off the cuff. I've done all of this, and I know it's worthless. So why do departments subject themselves to accreditation? The large motive for nearly all of them is fear of their competition. We at Liverpool can maintain our accreditation because we fear that if we don't, Manchester will have a better starting point than us. That's the only reason we do it. Can't do that because then all students will flock to Manchester. A, bollocks, that's not true. And B, so what? You've got to lead sometime and persuade other people to follow your lead. I was very relieved to see someone recently, when I was an external visitor at a very prestigious university, that in their paperwork said, if we felt that the requirements of accreditation conflicted with what we think is educationally sound, we would withdraw ourselves from accreditation. I thought, yes, I haven't done it. They've just threatened that it's more important to them to do the right thing than it is to get the rubber stamp. And I support that. So where did we end up here? I just want to say a final word about how this impacts on CDIO. We've had a debate in CDIO over the recent months, years, about certification of programs as CDIO compliant or some such designation. And we've argued about the words, we've argued about the practicality of it. I would argue against any such process for exactly the same reasons. It won't achieve anything, it won't achieve any improvement of quality. And worse still, in the case of CDIO members are the last people in the world who need this oversight, because they're the guys who actually do take the business seriously and learn from each other and have formed a network to improve their quality. So why do you need anything more than that? You surely don't. We are the best practitioners in the world, and if anybody needs the process, it's not these people here. So I rest my case, ban accreditation.